let me skip to one of the things that I think I don't know how it's going to play out in this conversation of ballet, where we are trying to help develop dancers and sculpt their bodies. And inherent in the attempt to sculpt your body and lengthen a line, inherent in that is it's not good enough as it is. And for me, it's not a black or white issue. It's just an issue of we're trying to help you, create the best you, fullest energetic you that we can, to be as musical as you can to the music. And I feel like within that, does that cause a feeling of being discriminated against and taken the wrong way as a Black person, because right now it feels that we have to be careful with any message that we're given, even if there's good intent within it.
Yeah, I think this is something I was speaking of earlier. I think it's very easy to confuse neglect and personal inabilities, hard work, the need to do hard work, rather, with discrimination and racism. And I think it's really hard, a thin line, rather, to confuse the two. Yes, there is a lot of inherent shaping and sculpting in ballet.
Yeah.
And that's my personal favorite thing about it. I love ballet so much because it's simultaneously what causes and appeases my pain. Simultaneously finding that pure, perfect joy while still striving for this idea of perfection that doesn't exist. And I would probably answer that question by comparing it to working out in the gym. I think there are plenty of people that feel, like I'm perfect the way that I am, and that's great. I think there's also people that work out because they want to sculpt the best person that they can be, whether that's losing weight or, and I think seeing dance as a sport, seeing it as a way to shape and sculpt your body so that you can be the best that you can be, I think is a great way of looking at it, instead of saying you need to be this way and sculpt your leg to be this way because of how it used to be. I think in order to move forward, having conversations like that about it being about the best you can be recenters it a little bit and helps us all to strive to be the best versions of ourselves. And in doing that, it's different from the person that's next to us. But as long as we are all working towards this common goal of hard work and becoming our perfect selves and not perfection. And once I recentered that for myself, and of course, in dance, there's so many of us that go through eating disorders or, body image issues. It's a huge part. And so I'm very hesitant to say our perfect self, because sometimes we see this idea of who we wish to be in our head, but knowing that you are enough now and having teachers make sure that they continue to uplift and support and encourage the dancer they are now while pushing them to be the best that they can be. And I think that's a great first step. Of course, in the age of now of questioning whether something is about racism or not, it gets tricky.
Yeah.
Especially when a lot of teachers that help us to get to that next level might not look like us on the outside. They're trying to help us get to this next level of success, but and in doing so, the dancer feels that they're pushing them or saying things to them and wondering, like, why are you saying this to me? Is it about racism? Is it about this? I think we all need to check ourselves. Teachers, students, we all need to check ourselves and rethink, what are we all trying to do here? And that goes back to what I was saying about the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Continuing to uplift and support your students and tell them, I'm only encouraging you because of what? I'm only doing this because of what? I want you to do this because of what? Why do you want to do this? Because of what? I think that's the only way that we can move forward, especially since we've all been home reflecting, I'm sure, on ourselves and our life and the things that we want in life. We can only move forward with that humility, with that vulnerability, and that constant questioning that we've already been doing for the last 3 months.
Yeah. When I first went to New York and George Balanchine was still alive, and I saw his company,
Mm-hmm.
and there were different shapes and sizes, and there weren't a lot of Black people in the company per se. About this, it wasn't about the skin color, but there were a lot of people with not great feet. I mean, really not great feet. But you put them on stage,
Yep.
and I would be moved to tears.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got it. Like, I'd see them in a class and say, "Oh, I don't know. I wonder why he picked her." And then it was like somebody just put sparkles all over the stage as soon as they stepped out on stage. And so I learned from watching that it's not about the perfect form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you said. We strive to sculpt and to be the most refined we can be, so that we can express the music as purely as we can through our bodies. But in the end, it's really our hearts and it's our passion that comes out. And that's what I see in you. And Lenai, I always saw, I always felt, and I told you this, I think George Balanchine would have just absolutely loved you and wanted to give you everything. I mean, I felt that way. Let her have everything. I just want to see you dance. I want to see you all over that stage, because you just have this uninhibited, abandoned passion, and you let the music take you. And again, it's through technique that we are able to do that, through technique. And that's another question then, is the word technique up for scrutiny? Because is technique associated with ballet and a perfect form? And how do we do that?
Yeah, I think something that the beloved Desmond Richardson used to always tell us, let your technique liberate you. So there is a certain, to a certain extent, we have to, do so many tendus in order to, make sure that we have it down, but encouraging the hearts in our dancers to shine just as much as we encourage the technique.
Right.
And I think oftentimes in my own background, I knew going into an audition that I was going to be in front of a director that or whoever the higher power was in the front of the room. I knew that they were either going to focus more on the heart that I was bringing or focus more on the technique that I was bringing. And I think what we need to do is rethink the binary and understand that. And when we think about the best dancers, it was because it was a merriment of all of it.
Thank you so much, Lenai. That's so great to just talk and hear your story. And I can't wait to see when we finally all get back in theaters and to see Ballet Hispanico and what you guys are even working on during quarantine, because I hear there's some stuff that you guys are working on. So I can just picture that little 3-year-old dancing around, and you really kept that. You know, it sounds like because of your mom and your support system and teachers like Zippora, and being at USC, that you've really kept that spirit of dance that you can't teach, you know. And so it's so important to get to see that in the art world, and I can't wait until we get to see more of that. So it was really nice to get to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us, for turn out and tune in.
Thank you so much, Lenai. I'm just so thrilled for you and excited for you, and thank you for being you.
Thank you guys for having me.